Okay, welcome to the final video on Greenfoot, and we're going to, in this video, show how to add enemies to the crab that will eat him and move around randomly. You actually know how to do this already. You already know all the code. For it, you just need to add a new actor, call it a lobster, give it a picture of a lobster, give it some code so it can move around, give it some code so it can eat a crab. Um, So you used all this code when you were making a crab. You just need to change it slightly um, so that you can make a lobster eat a crab instead of a crab eat a worm. Um, so if you want a bit of a challenge, have a go at doing it yourself first. Otherwise, continue to watch the video. So we're going to want new subclass and lobster. I'm going to choose a lobster picture and click OK. So what I'm going to do, I'm going to make my code nice and optimized at the very start. By putting the move and his move around code and his eat code in their own methods. So I'm going to say uh, move around and eat. So these methods don't exist yet, but I'm about to create them. So let's first of all start with the move around code. So I'm going to go public void move around. And literally all this code is going to do, let's get my squiggly brackets and put them nice and neatly in line with each other. All this code is going to do is move the lobster 4 spaces. The eat code, so public void eat squiggly brackets. The eat code is going to see if I'm touching a crab. So I'm going to say actor crab equals get one object at offset open bracket. Now because I want to be right on top of him, I'm going to put 0, 0 and then comma, and I want a crab dot class. So that's what I'm checking for to see if I'm on top of it. My code's then going to have an if statement, and I'm going to check to see if I'm touching a crab. So if I am, it won't equal null. So if crab not equal to null, close bracket, open squiggly, close squiggly, I'm going to get my world. So world equals get world. Then I'm going to remove from the world my crab. So world dot remove object crab. So again, this is code that you've used before. At the moment, the lobster doesn't turn, but I'm going to do that in next. So I'm going to just compile this for the moment. Oh, picked up an error. Semicolon expected. So let's add one in. Compile again. Yep, everything's fine. I'm going to compile. I'm going to add a lobster to my world, and I'm going to run. So lobster's going to get stuck on the side, but that's fine. I want to test if, yep, the lobster successfully ate my crab. So I'm going to reset. I could add some code in here I could record a sound of a crab screaming as it gets eaten by a lobster. Um, that's up to you. What I do want to now add is the ability to make the crab move around in a more realistic, in a manner that's not just a straight line. So I'm going to go to my move class, and what I'm going to do is I'm going to use a random number. So that it doesn't just move in a circle, I'm going to say turn, and I'm going to get a random number. So I'm going to do Greenfoot dot get random number open bracket, and I want it to be between 0 and 90. So I'm going to put 90 in here. I'm going to close the bracket for that one, close the bracket for the other one, and put a semicolon. So if you compile it and see what it looks like, let's run. Oh, need to actually add a lobster. So let's run. He looks like he's having a dance all to himself. The problem is, every single time, every single time the method gets called, he's turning in a new direction. So what we want to do really is, rather than make him turn every single time, we only want him to turn maybe 10% of the time. And we can do that using random numbers. So what we can do is we can do an if statement. And I'm going to set up the if statement first before I actually put the code in. So let's get my squiggly brackets all set up. Oh, set my squiggly brackets up properly. What's happening? Okay. So what I can do is I can get a random number and I can somehow compare it to 10. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to say Greenfoot dot get random number, and I want between 0 and 100. And what I'm going to say is if it is less than 10. So every time the method's called, it's going to get a random number between 0 and 100. Only when it's less than 10 is it going to turn an amount. So I'm going to compile, I'm going to close, and I'm going to compile again, add my lobster, and in fact I'm going to save the world now as well, and run. So now, it turns a bit better. If I wanted to, I could, if I wasn't happy with the way that he was turning, I could maybe make him turn quicker by making this number larger, or make him go for longer in a certain direction by making it smaller. So I could say turn 5% of the time. So he now goes for a little bit longer in one direction before turning. The only problem we've got left is at the moment, if you look at my lobster moving around, he's got a small problem in that he keeps going in circles and only turns right. At the moment, he never turns left. So if we look at our code a little bit more closely, we're turning from 0 to 45 degrees. Now, if we want to turn left, it needs to be a negative number. So have a think about what you could do here in order to make him to sometimes turn left, sometimes turn right. Well, because the range here is 0 to positive 90, if I wanted to make him go left a bit, what I could do is I could say minus 45. Now if I compile this and run my code, compile again, run, he now can turn, oh, and he's on me. Actually, let's go back to my code. I'm going to make him turn every 10%, so he turns a little bit more than normal than I had before. So if you watch him move, he can now turn left and right. Seems to get a little bit stuck in corners sometimes, but that's because of the randomness of it. And at some points he'll get stuck facing one way because he can never turn all the way back around. Well, if we wanted to fix that, we could say you can turn up to 180 degrees, but minus 90. And now we compile and run. He can turn all the way around, he can turn all the way back around. So, so far, in total, we have learned how to add actors to our world, create code for our actors so that they can move, create code so that we can have one actor interact with another actor, and also so that we can detect key presses. This should be everything to create a nice simple game. How about making the game 2-player, adding a second crab and seeing who can eat the most amount of worms? You need to give it separate controls, but you've already got methods set up to control the fact that you can move him. Okay, have fun in your programming adventure.